I found this Reddit post on the Neville Goddard subreddit, and it changed how I view manifestation and gave me a solid reason to try out this practice. So I've been in the mindset and manifestation community for several years, especially using subliminals for the last 6 years since 2020 February to cure health issues, become more charming, for self-love, for having so many job opportunities, everything working out in my favor, so much more. But something was still missing. I was doing all of this unconsciously. It felt like so much dependence on the subliminal as opposed to my own subconscious mind's power. Most of the times I never knew what I wanted, so I never consciously manifested it. But this Reddit post introduces the concept of morning and evening affirmations, which is obviously nothing new. I personally have known it for over 10 years, but I've never practiced it consistently. I've never practiced affirmations for more than 2 days straight. And that is what it comes down to. Not more information, not knowing more and more practices, but finding that one thing, having faith in that one practice and mastering it, using that to change your life. And we'll see in the story how this woman used affirmations to transform her life. I'm being so for real, it is super inspiring. It's lunchtime and I'm sitting on the staircase because I don't know where else to film. I feel called to film this today. Okay, let's go. I came across this Reddit post. I have it right over here. And this is another one of those things that I feel like I can't not share with you guys. The title of this post is I manifested 250k USD by practicing wealth affirmations in 90 days. This is exactly how I did it and how you can too, even if you don't believe in the law yet. And in brackets they've written long but gold. It starts with a quote by Neville. The creative process begins with an idea and its cycle runs its course as a feeling and ends in a volition to act. Neville. This is a story of consciousness versus unconsciousness. Another reason why I like this story so much is because I relate so much to the girl who wrote it. To be honest, I was one of those extremely unsuccessful people. I had never succeeded in anything and I had just dropped out of college for a second time at the age of 21. I knew I had a huge problem at hand and it all started with my mind and how it was conditioned when I was young. I remember I'd wake up in the morning and the very first things I think of were how much of a failure I was, how I dropped out of school with no plan, I had a terrible work ethic and no set of high-paying skills. I wasn't even driven to succeed. When I looked at my past, there was nothing I could refer to that suggested I am successful. This was my daily habit. As soon as I opened my eyes from sleep, I entered a state of anxiety, depression, and bombardment with the sensation of helplessness. And to top all of this off, I lived with a stepdad who was a narcissist with OCD and anger issues. This is the part I relate to because this is what my life was also like. When I lived in India, it was much worse living with my parents, constantly in that state of anxiety and waking up from sleep. I would feel that depression, anxiety, exactly how she describes it. The feeling of helplessness, I felt that on a daily basis. Even when I had escaped 2024, I was still dealing with so many issues and had a lot of nightmares. It's kind of sad to talk about, but I was often in that state of mind, I don't want to live this life anymore. It was a really hard time and I still have to integrate those parts who felt like that and save those parts that felt like that. So I really relate to this feeling. I'll continue what she says. In short, I hated my life and felt trapped in my own mind as well as in my parents' house. I didn't know who to ask for help. I had no money, no support, no solutions. My health was also very poor, so I spent most of my days in physical pain in the fetal position due to my paralyzed nervous system from depression. I had a real challenge in life and a college degree wasn't gonna be of much help. I relate to this a lot because I have spent so many days just in my bed doing nothing because I feel so powerless in this reality. That was also my life. The only light I had in this darkness that I could truly rely on was my meditation practice and my keen interest in metaphysical studies. I knew how to meditate and had a consistent practice, but I had never tried to use this inner power to solve my external problems. They say the first and last 5 minutes of the day are the most important because that is when your mind is hypnotized by ideas, feelings, and images. That is essentially where your life is created by you. If you don't control it, the circumstances of the world will control it for you. So every morning, I bathed my mind in these unwanted ideas unconsciously, and my life outpictured these ideas back to me with mathematical precision. I recognized this was the root of all my problems. My mind created my attitude, and that created my life. Everything from my financial brokenness, depression, and my physical chronic pains were coded in my mind, and I woke up in it every day, completely immersed and based in it, which blinded me to any other possibility. This cycle repeated itself all my life until one day I came across a set of teachings for remolding your life by a grand master yogi known as Paramahansa Yogananda. This was the very first book I had read on the law of attraction. I had read the term before, but I had never studied it and definitely never had intentionally put it into practice. Now I had a calling. I had to try this out. I had nothing to lose but my failure consciousness. The book was brief. Also, after reading this Reddit post, I read that book. The language of that book is like slightly difficult for me to understand, but basically they're telling you to practice affirmations. I used ChatGPT to help me write affirmations in the style of Yogananda. I'll talk about that a little later. The book was brief but very authoritative with clear instructions on how to apply the system to change your consciousness. He says the only way to change and mold your life is to change your consciousness. He says man's ignorance of this law has robbed humanity of its God-given power, which is the power of our minds to create prosperity, health, and miracles. I mean, if he says changing your consciousness is the only way, yes, that's true. But if repeating affirmations is the only way, I don't think that's true, because there's multiple ways of changing your consciousness. He refers to the mind as the magic factory. You can work in this factory to produce magical outcomes that are seeming miracles, but actually they are just thought vibrations getting condensed or frozen into matter, but they appear as miraculous circumstances, which I think is awesome. I agree with this so much because I myself have seen so many like miraculous things happening in my life. Like a lot of my health conditions just gone. Feeling beautiful, going from feeling like I don't want to live this life anymore to feeling so hopeful about life and having the best things in life and just being like such a lucky person. I didn't know the tiniest book in the world was about to change my life forever. I immediately put the exercises into action after reading it. This is so important. A lot of us just stay stuck in the cycle of reading, learning, absorbing, but not taking action. As soon as you start taking action, that's when your life starts to change. Every morning, immediately upon waking, I'd read over the affirmations for material success. And every night, right before going to sleep, I'd read the affirmations again as instructed. The book said to sit upright and then practice the affirmations. I didn't do that. I laid on my bed in the same position as I would for sleep, read the affirmations a few times, and then fell asleep. I read them out loud, then softly, and then repeated them mentally without moving my lips. Initially, I was very bad at this and lazy about it, still hugely skeptical with no sense of faith or trust in the process. Filled with doubts, I persevered. As time went by, I got better at doing these exercises. I paid more attention, affirmed with greater conviction, and had a little more faith every time. Then, I read the book once again and fine-tuned developing skills to the instructions. I began to focus on the point between the eyebrows. In Hinduism, we consider this the third eye. We focus over here, and here is also where they put the bindi to increase your power of concentration. The author says this is the point of concentration. Yeah, that's what I said. And willpower. I noticed as I focused there calmly, it amplified my mental power, leading me to have greater concentration with a greater feeling of faith. The author mentions that knowing how to use the mind to produce miracles is a skill that can be acquired. So many people try to change their minds, but they are unsuccessful in causing a change in their world, and they go on to believe that thoughts have no power. It's their minds that are weak and their attention scattered. I can attest to this. Like, there are times when I feel like my mind is so powerful. That's when I'm consciously putting my attention on things that I exactly want. And like, let's say if I'm scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Instagram, that in and of itself is making my mind weaker. So I really try to not do that. Really practice not doing that, or if I find myself doing that, I just catch myself. We're not going to be doing this. We have to focus on important things. In the same way a weak muscle can train, get stronger, and visibly grow bigger after exercises, the mind can grow more powerful through training. Another side note I want to add, since I've started exercising and doing functional training exercises for the last 6 months, physical exercise has been so helpful for becoming disciplined and making my mind stronger. Like on the days I don't go to exercise, I feel like something is missing. I feel like I'm off track. Before I started exercising, I really didn't know how important it was. If there's one thing you take away from this video, it is please find some exercise that you enjoy. For example, for me, 2024, it was about finding what I like. I tried so many different exercises like dancing, Pilates, ice hockey, skating. There's still so many exercises I haven't tried yet, like I haven't done any of the martial arts. For now, I'm sticking with the functional training while still trying out some new stuff. It is a mix of cardio and weight training. Doing the exercises consistently every single day,
except Sundays,
has completely changed my life and my mindset and my discipline and self-concept. The sun on my face. Soon I began to notice that a battle had begun within my mind between the old patterns of failure consciousness and these new ideas of absolute success, wealth, and joy. As I was saying the affirmations with conviction, thoughts of doubt and poverty would suddenly creep up out of nowhere. I'd notice them and increase the amplitude of my attention on the idea of success. I kind of don't like this approach, ignoring the negative thoughts, because those thoughts need attention. They're coming up because they need attention. They need to be integrated instead of ignored. Thoughts of failure would cease and I'd continue the stream of attention in success consciousness produced by the affirmations. Over time, this created a lot of joy in my heart and made me feel like I was gonna win this battle over failure consciousness. So like, this is just my opinion. Those parts that have been brought up with the failure consciousness since childhood, they need our attention, they need our care, they need to be loved, and they need to be taught, like reparented instead of ignored. Let's continue. Slowly at first, but steadily, and later faster, my mental attitude began to completely change. I had started to think of ways to start a business of my own. I'd search the internet for hours on end and implement the ideas that I could. I had changed my daily routine and would go to the library, take my lunch, and research various business models that I could start with little money. As I was searching, I had so much conviction that something somehow will come of these actions. You can instill any trend in your consciousness right now, provided you inject a strong thought in your mind. Then your actions and whole being will obey that thought. A few unusual things started to happen. A yoga student of mine, after a class, asked me if I'd go to her house and give her spiritual counseling. Something like this had never happened before the affirmations. She ended up compensating me for my time, even though I had told her she didn't have to. Another event is that my mom brought various Persian turquoises from Iran. They were sent by her high school friend who was in the business of mining Persian turquoise. Their main customer was China, but they wanted to work with the US, and due to sanctions, it was difficult. She said if I can find a buyer, we'd go into business. If not, I can keep the stones. I kept the stones as gifts, but later found out that Persian turquoise is the highest valued and the most sought after turquoise in the world, also known as the most beautiful. The sanctions have actually caused their value to rise. I found that 5 of the stones are worth around $500 to $900, and there's a total of 40 cheaper stones which continue to rise in value every year. These like small events like keep happening to me after I've become like more conscious and more intentional with my either affirmations or subliminals or gratitude. The affirmation includes sentences like, all the wealth of this earth, all the riches of the universe belongs to me. I find it astounding that the wealth of the earth, which are the Persian turquoises, were sent to me directly from the country of my birth, Iran. The author of this post, she's from Iran, currently lives in the US, which happens to have the most valuable turquoise in the entire world. If this doesn't resemble the exact words from the affirmations, I don't know what does. Both these events resembled a natural possession of wealth, which was the object of my newly found affirmation practice. Now I was in the flow. I began to love practicing my success affirmations every night and morning, then getting up and taking actions that resembled success to me intuitively. I had taken responsibility for my life and I felt confident. I think the same thing is happening to me right now. Like, I'm really enjoying practicing my morning and evening affirmations. If I don't do it, let's say I just fall asleep without having affirmed properly, I just feel like, okay, something was missing. It's the same feeling I get if I don't brush my teeth or floss my teeth. Okay, there's too much sun on my face right now. Let's sit here. Watch the sun. Doubt would show up at times when I looked at my bank account and the conditions of my life, but I kept going. I knew something was right around the corner. I kept experimenting with 2 to 3 businesses, implementing everything I had learned to the best of my ability. I just wanted to learn. I didn't care about failing. I had started a Shopify store and an Etsy store. Still, I hadn't made any progress when it came to money, but somehow I didn't care. I just had this attitude of trying until it worked. I fell in love with the process of research, implementing what I had learned, the struggles, and the problem solving that I had to do. By this time, I still had $400 in my bank account, but my attitude had completely changed. I now had the attitude of a winner instead of a loser. All the while, in the back of my mind, I knew I only needed one product that was an absolute winner. That one viral product, once I found it, it would change everything. Intuitively, I kept looking for that product to show up. I knew a golden product was right around the corner. I continued on with my morning and night affirmations. By this time, I had far less resistance to the idea of success. Every time I read it, I felt like I was smoothly flowing with the stream of consciousness that was being conveyed in the affirmations. I felt calm, centered, and absolutely certain that these words were true. Some days I'd wake up and the first thought that entered my mind was, my success is inevitable. I don't know how I will succeed, but I will succeed. I didn't consciously come up with these thoughts. They were just there. I woke up in them and my mind was saturated with these knowings. By now, I had gotten really good at doing these affirmations. I said them with conviction, full unwavering attention, and a natural feeling of faith. One night after my affirmation practice, I entered a deep state of faith. I had absolutely no resistance to the idea of being wealthy. I was right there, completely bathed in it, in the center of my mind. Its belief had taken over my entire body and mind. I felt that I had merged with the consciousness of the affirmation, which was wealth and success. In that state, I fell asleep. That night, I had a dream that I was running a business. I was so busy, I had a full-on legitimate operation going on with employees and lots of customers. I was so busy and had so much to do. Once I woke up from that dream, the very first thought that came to my mind was, I'm going to make $200,000. Again, I didn't come up with this number. It was just there. I woke up in it. It was coming from my subconscious mind. And I had nothing to do with generating it. It was a clear, authoritative intuition. Within a few seconds of waking up, once my conscious mind became awake, I thought to myself, how dare you think of these numbers? Where do you even get these numbers from? This was a doubt creeping in, but it had no effect on my attitude. Yogananda says, the stronger magnet wins. Again, I don't really appreciate this approach of dismissing the negative thoughts. The negative thoughts have to be dealt with in a loving way. Or that's how you create self-love environment, like an atmosphere of self-love within your body. By this time, I had made the magnet of success much stronger than failure in my mind. Within 1 week of this dream, I found the one winning product. It was March of 2020. I was at a friend's house. Somehow I was so relaxed and I was just sitting there with this feeling of certainty that I'm gonna be rich. Still no signs of riches to be found in my pockets. I just knew it with all my heart. Even a friend of mine who's rich said, I have a feeling you're gonna be rich. In my case, I've been getting comments from viewers of my channel. One of them said that she had a dream that within a few weeks time, I'm gonna get 100k subscribers. Currently, I'm at 15k. I know I will never give up on making these YouTube videos because it brings me so much joy to be sharing what I want to share with the world. Like for now, it doesn't matter to me whether I'm at 100k, 200k, or 15k. I'm just happy to be making this content. I will continue doing it for the rest of my life.
Back to the story.
I was surfing on Etsy as I had gotten into the habit of doing. I had come up with a way to quickly find the highest search terms on Etsy on my own without having to pay for a software service. I saw that the term face mask is one of the most searched items on Etsy. 2020 face mask, oh my gosh. I thought to myself, why the heck are people searching for face masks? In March of 2020, at least in the US, COVID was not a thing. It was like just starting. COVID had just started and my timing was somehow perfect before everybody figured out they need a face mask. I was selling a face mask. I asked my mom to sew face masks for me and I posted them on Etsy that day. And the next day I woke up to a few sales. I posted my first face mask on March 18th. The first week I had a revenue of $14,000 and by April 14, Etsy had deposited $200,000 into my personal bank account. This was within 25 days of starting the business. By the end of the business, which was less than a year, the business had a revenue of $850,000 with $250K in profits after I paid all my people handsomely because I remember Yogananda said to become rich and make others rich. Through the change in my consciousness, I found myself doing things differently. Those actions put me in the right place at the right time. This is one of the affirmations that I use actually. I get opportunities and I meet the right people at the right place at the right time, which was the goal that I needed. I had created massive luck by changing my thoughts. People around me were jealous and some of them thought I'm a genius for having spotted the opportunity so on time. But only I knew that for 3 months prior, every day and night, I had been cooking up a magic sauce in my mind that produced these results. This experience taught me so much about life and existence, more than anything I ever anticipated. I used to have a lot of resistance to work, but now I felt like work had set me free. I had all this money coming in. I had so many thousands of happy customers. I had articles written about my face masks all over BuzzFeed and the internet. I had 20 employees that were happy with their income amidst COVID when everybody was panicking about money. Seeing tens of thousands of good reviews and saying this is the best face mask they have tried and how the print is beautiful. Seeing hundreds of pictures of people wearing my masks that I had designed online. It was beautiful. It was glorious to see my mind had produced prosperity that was being shipped all over America. To be honest, it was a spiritual experience in itself. I think I have a similar feeling with my YouTube channel. Hundreds of comments saying that they relate to my story. Just seeing that I'm making a positive impact by being myself online, that is a spiritual experience for me. I tried to make this post educational, entertaining, and inspiring. I left a lot of details out. This post is already long. I wrote a shorter version of the story a few years ago. And by the way, I'll link both of these posts down in my description. I did make a mistake amidst the whole process, which I must share here. I stopped practicing my affirmations after I made 200K. Over time, my mind slowly went back to its older conditioning. Depression crept up after a year and I lost my motivation to earn more wealth. I believe if I had maintained the consciousness that got me to that level of sudden and miraculous success, I would have succeeded in further miraculous ways. I started the practice up again a month ago, this time focusing on health affirmations because I have back pain from an injury that I wish to heal. I don't care how long it takes, it's better than not doing anything about it. So now I do health affirmations and then do wealth affirmations because I just want to see what happens and where this creative process will take me next. I know for a fact another miracle story is just around the corner. So if you start the practice, just don't stop. You don't just go to the gym for 3 months, you go for the rest of your life. Exactly, I relate to this so much. And then she says, thank you for reading my story. If it has been helpful to you, I'm grateful for that. If you have any questions, blah, 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 okay. And then she has a screenshot of her bank statement in 2020. Yeah, okay, that's it. This video is a little long. I have to go.